Welcome to SmartLogic's Smart Chats. I am Dr. Bri Bellavati, and today we're speaking with Emma, one of our software developers at SmartLogic. Today we're going to be talking about something that's reshaping the way that we work. I'm sure everyone's not surprised to hear it's about AI. So is AI overhyped? Is it that magical tool that's going to do everything for us? Is it somewhere in between? What is the reality for devs with boots on the ground for how they're using these tools and what their experience is like? So Emma, she's been experiencing with AI coding assistants and different tools for several projects. And today we're going to chat with her about her experience. Hi, Emma. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hi, Bri. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So before we get into the nitty gritty, how about you just do a quick little introduction? Tell us who you are, what's your dev background, how'd you get started using some AI tools?
A little bit about me. I'm a software engineer here at SmartLogic, like you said. I work primarily in Ruby on Rails and Elixir. I came into coding as a child, actually. My dad switched careers in his mid 40s from marketing to development, and he started teaching himself how to code. And naturally, I sat next to him, learning alongside him, doing projects on weekends and after school. I'm relatively new in my career, so I think that joining the field right now as AI tools are becoming prevalent give me a unique perspective. I haven't had years in my career of doing it the good old way, so I'm pretty open to experimenting and learning some new stuff. I wasn't able to lean on any type of AI tool during college or throughout my education, so I did have to learn it the good old fashioned way.
Teaching yourself with your dad at the dinner table and the world, AI is here, and you're teaching yourself along the way.
Exactly.
Really cool. Well, how about you tell us a little about what are some of the tools? We don't have to get into the deep details yet, but we will. But tell me about some of the tools you've experimented with and what's that experience like?
There are countless number of tools nowadays. There are so many. So I've had the privilege of experimenting with a few of them, not all of them. The ones related to AI and development, I've been able to experiment with GitHub's Copilot, Cursor, Claude Code, and OpenAI's Codex.
Awesome. All right. So what do you like about each? Obviously overgeneralization, but the pros, the cons, kind of talk me through them a little bit.
So something about GitHub Copilot is just it is incredible for its autocomplete on steroids, writing tests, finding similar patterns across files, writing something repetitive like validations. There's just this flow state where you're coding and you can lean on it on Copilot. It's also great knowing what kind of Rails conventions and suggestions to keep it all the code idiomatic. With Cursor, I use it more for exploratory work because it has a chat interface combined in the editor. So when trying to understand some kind of complex file or refactor something that is substantial, I can have this natural conversation with Cursor. It's like having a pair programming partner. So that's been really helpful, especially for new code bases, understanding how to get through some of the logic in plain English. Claude Code, I use this one. It's a bit more of a powerhouse. I use it more strategically outside the editor for big migrations, complex documentation, something architectural. It has longer context windows, so it has better understanding, conversational abilities. It's also great for something they call rubber duck debugging.
All right. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's when a programmer explains code step by step in a natural language. And you do this to reveal mistakes or misunderstandings. And then, yeah, lastly, OpenAI's Codex. I found that the integration was less seamless as compared to the other ones, but this one allows you to understand the inner workings, look under the hood of some of these tools a little bit more. So that was interesting. And across all of these different tools, my experience has just been educational. There's a learning curve, but it's been a lot of fun to get to play around with.
So you mentioned some of the tools are good for newer code bases, but let's talk about, I know you just recently wrote a blog about updating legacy JavaScript on a Rails app. So that modernization project, how did you approach it? What did you do? What were the benefits? What were some of the setbacks? What were some of the lessons learned? Tell us, go a little deeper on how you did all that.
Yeah, I was able to upgrade a legacy Rails application, which is a tale as old as time. This project is pretty interesting because I came in as someone that was relatively new to this older code base, which is pretty typical for legacy modernization work. The application hadn't had its JavaScript touched in years, Sprockets, asset pipeline, jQuery, custom plugins written by developers that have long since moved on. And normally you would spend days just mapping out these dependencies and potential issues, trying to build a mental model of how everything connects. And this is where AI was able to shine. So it helped me create a migration strategy upfront. I described the architecture, the constraints. I wanted zero downtime, maintain all the functionality that was originally in place, and it helped me come up with a comprehensive plan. It wasn't just a checklist, though. It was a thoughtful analysis of dependencies and potential pitfalls, and even a phased approach. So you start with the asset pipeline migration, then you convert the React components, modernize this integration here, and it even suggested rollback plans, which is pretty incredible. So it allowed me to actually implement the migration much faster with confidence that I'd thought through all the different risks, including complex issues during development, which I could go back and have it help me with.
So let me ask you this. So you started this project and it helped you come up with this strategic plan, so to speak, like, or an approach as to how to do it. Did it do it instantly, or did you write your initial prompt and get it the access and then go, no, that's not good enough? Like, how long did it take you to get to that refined plan?
You need to give it context. The more context that it's given, and not just what, but why. Why do you want to do something? Why is this going to be helpful? How it's going to be used? How many users are using it? So it's iterative. It iterates on itself. It will come up with a suggestion, something small, and then you can start building onto that from there. It isn't instantaneous. You have to go through a lot of different avenues and give it suggestions, give it examples, and guide it in the right way.
Excellent. And I also know that you have used AI with a documentation project as well. Before we get to that one, if you were to say thumbs up, sideways, or down, did AI make the modernization more efficient, more effective? Was it a thumbs up then, too hard to tell, or no, it actually made it a lot longer? What would you say?
The modernization, yeah, two thumbs up. It's especially for a legacy code application, something that we have something here in development we call knowledge silos, right? You have these people that hold the key to all the information and understand how things are pieced together. And a new member comes onto the code base and is like, where can I find this? Why is it built like this? And all of that is so much easier to understand when you have a pair programming partner that has full context of the whole code base.
I love the concept of being like your programming partner that's always with you. All right, so you make a segue too easy. So you're talking about knowledge silos. I'm sure no other dev shop ever experiences that one person who like built a thing, knows a thing, and then didn't quite follow up with documentation, or they did enough to what made sense for them to have the context of the code, but maybe not a fresh person to come in with fresh eyes. So this issue is how to maintain quality documentation, how to make sure that that's good hygiene. So tell me, how does AI help you break down those knowledge silos with improving documentation?
Yeah, the documentation dilemma is such a universal problem. Everyone knows that documentation is important, but it's really hard to justify spending time documenting existing features when you could be building new ones instead. It's difficult because documentation feels like an afterthought or a task, an after the fact task.
Or we have it, it's good enough, like let's keep moving on.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So what did you do? How did you leverage the tools to make that better process?
Typically, we have projects that have business logic already associated with them. So we were able to feed it plain language, plain files, explaining some of the business behind it. maybe even documentation that was created to onboard users. And then we're able to use those user manuals in conjunction with the AI having the context of the code base to create documentation that became hand in hand with the code base itself. So it's not always like that. We don't always have access to files like that, but these language models understand the context of items that are much further apart. They're able to abstract a lot more quickly than we are. And they're able to find patterns that we just aren't able to recognize in the same amount of time. So I can go through the different models and give me documentation on what the abilities of this model do and what aspects of the code does this touch and what does that translate to in business terms, in English, in natural language.
So what I'm hearing, like updating a legacy code, obviously benefit. Documentation, they can go hunt and sort and pull and extract and synthesize and summarize at a drop of a hat. Easy to find many use cases where that could be a value add. But let's also be real. This is new technology. It's not perfect. It doesn't always get you the best path or the best answer. Talking about some of the limitations that you experienced, and when do you decide to okay, abort? I'm just gonna go back to Paul's using it for this. Let me go back to what I was going to do. Talk to me about your thought process and how you approach that.
Yeah, this is critical to get right because we do have to be cautious, especially with the business logic or security. These are critical pieces of the puzzle that I have to be very careful with about letting a language model touch when they have assumptions built into it, suggesting approaches that might require human judgment or deep context that it just doesn't or can't have. And there's a few different other places where I wouldn't let it. I would be cautious about how much it touches, such as architecture of the system. It can analyze and suggest, but ultimately those kind of decisions should be passed down to those that have the most knowledge of the project, understand it deeply. Again, AI just doesn't and can't have that kind of deep level, multi-level context. Then there's other aspects like ambiguous requirements, anything that comes along with people, with managing people, and fixing people's needs, doing our best to ensure compatibility with a large number of different users. That kind of ambiguous requirements maybe is best left to human judgment. But it also allows us to step back with some of the difficult edge cases or when code feels off. That's when we go back into the driver's seat and take over. So there are limitations.
So clearly, who and what a developer was prior, 10 years ago, obviously is very different than it is today, and likely will be in the next 5 as well. So I want to hear from your perspective as somebody who is newly in this field, learning and adopting this brand new technology. How do you see your role as a developer changing with the introduction of AI tools?
Yeah, there has been a really interesting shift, especially since I'm experiencing it in real time as a developer early in my career. I moved from being purely a maker to also being a conductor. I'm spending more time thinking about what needs to be done and how to break it down, and less time on some of the mechanical tasks that are able to be taken off my load because of AI. So I'm making higher level decisions, more about quality assessment, making more strategic choices. And then AI can handle a lot of the repetitive implementation details that allow me to move forward more quickly.
Love it. If you were to give advice to other developers who are wanting to start experimenting, and I know we're all kind of early in our experimentation as well, so keeping that in the back of our head, but what advice would you give for anyone who's embarking on it or just ready to make that jump?
I would tell them to start small and stay specific at first. Don't try to AIify your whole workflow in day one. Pick one pain point. Maybe it's the documentation, maybe it's a legacy app, Maybe it's converting patterns or keeping your test suite robust. Pick that and move forward. I do have a few practical tips for some of the developers themselves. With these, you need to learn to describe outcomes, not step by step. So instead of prompting it by do this and then that, describe it in the terms of what kind of result do you want to look at. AI is better at understanding patterns, pattern matching, than it is to follow a recipe. Again, I think I had mentioned earlier, building context incrementally, especially with large projects. You need to help AI understand not just what you're changing, but why. You need to share the constraints, show examples of patterns, and then continue to iterate on that. Always, always, always trust, but verify. AI is an excellent tool, and there's a lot of incredible implementation that you can make, but you need to be in control of the strategic decisions. Always review, always verify the business logic, the security, and other, especially mission critical parts and pieces. Understand that there will be a learning curve, and then stay technical. You can't manage what you don't understand.
Yeah, these are fantastic and very actionable. I think what resonates for me is you don't need to AIify. I'm gonna steal it from you and I'm gonna use it over and over. But I think it can be an overwhelming thought of like I have to use AI for everything. And I liked your approach of no, start small. Pick that one thing that's annoying or frustrating or laborious and whatever it might be, and start somewhere. Just starting somewhere and experimenting. And I also think everyone keeps saying the human in the loop, the developer in the loop. For me, it's making sure you're still in that driver's seat, reviewing, double checking, reassuring, making sure that those critical components are done well. Excellent advice. Although before we go, 30 seconds on anything you want to promote, plug, or just share out to the world. Any last statements today?
No, just continue learning, stay sharp, stay curious, and this will be a really interesting journey as more and more tools, more things come out. The competition is fierce. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you for coming today. And I look forward to chatting with you in 6 months because I'm sure the world's going to be turning super fast and we'll have new ideas and new things to talk about. But Emma, thank you so much for joining today. And for everyone, thanks for tuning in to our Smart Chats.